unsaid. Through heavy burdens, the paths we tread. From the songs we sing to the fears we face, we find our strength in shared embrace. Voices rising, hearts awake. Through every moment, the steps we take. Discuss the pain, reflect the fire. Transform the dark, lift each heart higher. Courage to converse, a bridge to start. Healing the world, one open heart. Every voice, a story told. Through the new, through the old. Bound by love, the ties that bind. In every struggle, hope will find. Discuss the pain, reflect the fire. Transform the dark, lift each heart higher. Courage to converse, a bridge to start. Healing the world, one open heart. An open heart. So speak your truth and light the way. Through darkest nights we'll find the day. Courage to converse until we're free. A better world for you and me. In shadows deep where silence grows, a spark ignites, a courage shows. We break the chains, the walls we climb. Together we can redefine. Voices rising, hearts awake. Through every moment, the steps we take. Discuss the pain, reflect the fire. Transform the dark, lift each heart higher. Courage to converse, a bridge to start. Healing the world, one open heart. From the battles fought to the words unsaid. Through heavy burdens, the paths we tread. From the songs we sing to the fears we face, we find our strength in shared embrace. Voices rising, hearts awake. Through every moment, the steps we take. Discuss the pain, reflect the fire. Transform the dark, lift each heart higher. Courage to converse, a bridge to start. Healing the world, one open heart. An open heart. From the battles fought to the words unsaid. Through heavy burdens, the paths we tread. From the songs we sing to the fears we face, we find our strength in shared embrace. Voices rising, hearts awake. Through every moment, the steps we take. Discuss the pain, reflect the fire. Transform the dark, lift each heart higher. Courage to converse, a bridge to start. Healing the world, one open heart. Every voice, a story told. Through the new, through the old. Bound by love, the ties that bind. In every struggle, hope will find. Discuss the pain, reflect the fire. Transform the dark, lift each heart higher. Courage to converse, a bridge to start.
Welcome to Courage to Converse, where we discuss tough topics, reflect on personal experiences, and explore paths for growth and understanding. Before we dive in, I want to acknowledge that some conversations may touch on sensitive or challenging issues. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or support. If you or someone you know is struggling, resources are available to help. In the U.S., you can call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text HOME to 741-741 to reach the crisis text line. Remember, our goal here is to spark meaningful conversations while fostering respect, understanding, and personal growth. So let's get started.
All right, welcome back to Kirk's Converse. Sorry, a few seconds late there. I had to do a quick change. Take off my hoodie. Forgot all about it. Today we have Tim back with us. We have JoJo with us as always. We have another guest planning to be here. They'll join whenever they're available. But today's topic is entitled "Who Are You Really?" Taking an honest look at ourselves. And what this really means is, sometimes we are our own problem, or sometimes we are the problem that's going around us. And this is intended to make us uncomfortable, but in a good way. Find some positivity out of the way we see ourselves, really do an inventory on who we are, where we are. And Jody and I were talking about, things. What was it, anger management movie?
Yeah.
Well, who are you? Right?
Yes.
So
who are you, David?
Talk to you about. I'll let you talk to that when we get to that point. So that'll be pretty good. All right. So they're saying I have an echo. Why do I have an echo? I have an echo. Okay. Give me one second.
That's the mics.
I'll be good. Where's host? I don't know why I'm echoing. Go ahead and talk to it to see if you have an echo.
So, I'm excited about this topic today. In particular, I dealt with this a lot with all my individuals that were in recovery and everything like that. We called them self-assessments. Another thing is, like in NA and AA, they call it moral inventory. But sometimes we have to take that self-assessment, especially in situations with work, with our partners, friends, family, things like that. Sometimes, like you said, Joe, it's an us problem. Sometimes, 15 people come up to you and say, you're an asshole. But your best friend walks up to you, I don't know what they're talking about. You are totally not like that. It's like, no, stop. You're biased. I'm going to believe the 15 people, look at myself in the mirror, and figure out why I'm being an asshole.
Right. And maybe your group of friends are assholes altogether, and
True.
So you don't see each other the same way, right? So this is not just about only your self-reflection, but also those around you, right? Because you are a product of your environment. We've mentioned this in the past, right? So I think that's important, just to be able to take a real look and be honest with ourselves and let other people be honest with us without us, getting angry or upset or anything like that. So, you have anything to say to that, Tim, before we get too deep into
this? I'm still sitting here trying to figure out how to word from my own self-description, but I think that I truly think that we have different personalities for different groups, different places, different I like to think of myself as being an asshole just so people won't bother me. But at the same time, I'm always told, and I know this, that I have a big heart and things like that. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff I do where I just feel selfish, and things I do that I know are selfish, but with lessons learned, those are just things that I do to keep me from being hurt.
Right.
Self-preservation, I guess.
In defensive mode,
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah. We've talked with other people about this in the past. You know, you're always in defense mode. You're always
Guards
a lot
up.
of trauma causes that sometimes, right? And we've talked about it in the past about, you know, how do we fix these things? You know, how do we go about doing it? But it takes a conscious effort to understand that. You know, you say you can detect that you're being selfish or whatever, right? So you're already self-aware. You know, are those things that you feel like you'd want to change? Like you don't want to be that way, or you feel like because of, you know, the defense mechanisms in place that it's not something that you could or are willing to change?
There are some ways where the selfishness is just because I want peace, and I can't seem to. I keep trying to establish that, but there's always something pulling me back to where I can't.
Right.
So that defense, that self-preservation comes up of I want this peace so bad.
Yeah.
Till I don't care if I'm selfish or not.
Right. Yep. I mean, that makes sense. It's understandable. All right.
But then it goes back to, is it selfish, or is self-preservation isn't selfish
And
if it's in protective mode?
well, and when I do feel guilty and I tell someone that, then they're automatically kind of letting me know, no, that's not selfish.
Right.
I've even had one person tell me you are the least selfish person that I know, but I just you just have a hard time because you build. I guess in my mind, I build this persona of I don't want people bothering me, and if I do this, then they won't bother me. But there's just some things that you can't get past that are going to happen.
Right.
And you have to. I'm learning real quickly, especially recently, that I have to learn to adapt to that, and I have to learn to adapt to that, and I have to just adjust for after everything settles down, then trying to move forward.
Right. So along with that, you know, things and trauma and things that happens in our past, right? Do we allow that to, I guess, put up a wall, make us stay like that permanently? You know, because we've talked about this in the past, you know, just because your past has been one way doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. You know, and I know a lot of people hold up that blocker against everybody, especially when like it's being too good to be true, right? Because I've done this and now I'm going to be a little bit more vulnerable, but now I'm going to be susceptible to being hurt again, right? So it's like a vicious cycle at times when people, you know, are afraid to open up because they've been hurt too many times in the past, right? And that's flows right into what comes up here. You know, we have people like you're one of the least, you know, you're the least selfish people or persons out there, right? You're a very nice person, you're a very kind person, but to likely, I won't say likely, but to everybody around you other than your own family, right? Have you ever felt like you're nice to everybody, but then you treat your family like shit because you're the closest ones and they can take the brunt of it?
I won't lie, my wife can contest. Can
Why do we think that is?
I don't know. Because they're the closest to us, they know us better than anybody else. So you feel you can be that true person. A lot of times, like when my anger comes out, it'll come out toward her, and she'll look at me and go, "What are you mad with me about?"
Unintentionally, right? It's a subconscious thing that happens.
Yes, exactly. I mean, like I can be. There's times I can be fine 1 minute, and then an hour later, it's like I'm angry. I don't know why. Anything and everything aggravates me or agitates me, and I don't know why.
I think that's a man thing. honestly. Because I mean,
but it
we
could
get in our
be
moods, right?
it could be as simply something as I was just processing the day, and then all of a sudden I'm just in an ill mood. I don't want to be bothered. I don't want anybody messing with me, and sometimes that can come up on her, and it's wrong, but it just feels like it's so hard to change that.
Right.
Because I have tried. I have tried to change that, and we talked about God, and I'll just shout out, God, I'm failing.
Does it help?
A little bit, yeah, it does. But at the same time, it's like the frustration is there. The frustration's not changing.
Mm-hmm.
So all you can do is, I don't know.
Deep down, what do you think the root of that is, JoJo?
A lot of it's trauma over the years. A lot of that, and plus work, your health issues, and everything like that too. A lot of that builds and builds and builds. And like you were talking about, processing the day or the week or whatever, you had good points in there, but the negative are the ones that we all hold on to genuinely. Because it's a whole lot easier.
You can do a million good things and one bad thing can just kill it, right? And that can be applied to many things in life, throughout your day, throughout your life,
But then, when there's a point where guarded, when we build walls, to be guarded and protective and self-preservation, but then there's hermetizing versions of that, where we pull ourselves and away from everyone else and not allow anyone to get in there to understand or try to work through these things and stuff like that. Because some things, it's just a matter of not just talking it out, but actually working a plan and a program, like through meditation and stuff like that, to get a lot of those cycles through.
I think,
and it's not for everyone. I mean, everyone, it would have to be curtailed properly.
Just like everybody learns differently, everybody processes things different. They deal with trauma, traumatic situations, death, happiness, good things in life. Everybody deals with it differently. I've had I don't know if it's a revelation or whatever recently. My wife and I, Amanda, I know you're watching. We've had some struggles over the past several months of several things, but there's a lot of things that we both were working on, right? She was working on a lot of things, and very recently, it took going back to the doctor and talking to the doctor, getting her meds changed and everything, but her perspective on life has changed, right? Her viewpoint on life has changed, and she's been extremely encouraging towards me, which naturally makes me want to be more encouraging to her, right? But when you don't have when you see your partner or somebody like that not doing something to help themselves, to make themselves better, it just makes you drag yourself down, and subconsciously and unintentionally makes you say and do things to the other person to make them feel like they're nothing, right? Not that I want her to feel like she's nothing, but it's like, you're not helping yourself, so why should I continue to try to help you if you're not going to do it for yourself, right? However, you have to meet each other in the middle. What we always said, meet that person where they are. You have to be able to talk to them, understand them where they're at, right? And it took a pretty big blowout for us to get to this point where we're at right now. And we've been married 22 years this year. We'll be married, and this is probably one of the most refreshing points in our marriage that I can say that we've had, in my opinion. But to go back to say this, because we could be the nicest person, and she's told me this. Why you're so nice to all these people, but you treat me like shit, and it's not that I want to, right? But when I'm out doing all these things, it makes me feel good, and in my mind, I see you not helping yourself or anything. That drags me down, and I don't want to be involved with that. So that's going to make me lash out at you. That's how the thought process goes. Not intentionally, but it happens. You know what I mean? But it is I did have to do a little bit of a self-evaluation, right? Like, she's struggling. If I treat her like shit, it's only going to make her struggle that much worse, right? So I need to encourage her, even if I feel like I'm at wit's end with trying to help. I have to do a self-evaluation and look at myself and talk to myself like, she needs you, be here, encourage her, right? And that's helped, right? And she's never done this. She's been texting me this week, she reaching out, have you got anybody for your podcast? Anybody coming over? You're like encouraging me, pushing me to drive to do better, right? And I'm like, that helps me, right? And that makes me want to naturally come back and help you, right? It's natural and organic. So, and we kind of talked about the contradiction of how we treat other people versus how we treat our family, right? I personally think one of those reasons is because we want our family to succeed, and they are our family. And when they're not, it's a semi-disappointing to see that, right? And you're putting all this effort, and then for nothing. It can feel like nothing, right? There's no progress, there's no changes, so they need to do a self-evaluation as well, right? But that self-evaluation needs to eventually circle back around and be an evaluation of each other together, as a cohesive unit. Whether it's your family, a marriage, or a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, even a friendship, you know what I mean? When there's trauma or drama in a friendship, you have to be able to sit back and, am I really doing something wrong? Am I doing something to cause that person to not talk to me or want to be around or whatever? And if you can question yourself on those things and actually say yes, then maybe you should go to that other person and talk to them and be like, hey, this is what I see going on. Why not talk about it? We talked about this last week, right? With Wanda. Let's approach the situation head on, right? Because that other person didn't know there was a problem. She didn't know that other person had a problem until they talked it out, right?
Well, that situation, talking about encouraging and things like that, when she would talk to me about it, with everything she had going on at work, I would try to get her to do this or do this to get that person off her back by trying to tell her, you need to go to HR. You've done talk to your bosses. It's not doing any good. You do have the right to go talk to your HR and move forward. And like she said the other night, she finally just had enough and went to higher up and said, I can't handle it anymore.
Right.
Move me, or let's figure this out. And they sat down and they got it figured out. And I don't know what the whole deal was, but there were times, like you said, you would get frustrated because you didn't feel like she was doing stuff. And when she would talk to me, I would try to just listen and not be the fixer, because a long time ago she said, don't try to fix it. Just listen.
Right.
And I think we've all been told that at one point or
Let
another.
me get it off my chest.
Yeah. And she would do that. And at the same time, I'm like, if you just do this, if you just do this, if you just do this. But she will always approach something her way.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what she's going to do. And it worked out good. So I'm glad for that, because it was getting really tough for her working. I mean, it was like an overnight thing. It happened. And now she just seems a lot better. It's like, I can ask you how your day was, and it was either good, or her frustrations might be because something wasn't working properly or something. Now it's not. In the last couple of weeks, it hasn't been this, and this person is giving me pure out hell, right. Because, and it's that savior. It's your significant other, it's your wife, your whatever. You want to do something to make their trouble stop.
Right.
But if you do, you'll make the situation worse.
Right. Just listen.
Sometimes.
Just
yeah,
listen.
sometimes.
Yeah. Well,
Now,
I forget
But the way I approach things, that's most.
What are you gonna say?
well, one of the things when you're talking about family or friends versus the external world, right? Why do we treat the people on the outside better, seemingly, than we do the people closest to us? Especially people who are driven, like A personalities, like yourself, myself, right? We set a different standard in our minds for our family and our friends who are close to us.
Yeah, good point.
So you're held at a higher standard. My dad owned his own business.
Are we held, or are we making ourselves feel like we're held at that standard?
No, I hold people who are closest to me at a higher standard than people on the outside. Yeah, I can treat them like, oh, I'm going to treat you a little more tough because I want you better.
Right.
To be better for yourself. If that means I have to push you and everything like that, like everything that you were just talking about with Amanda, I tell her that I'm proud of her. She literally hit this barricade.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of still cowering behind it, she stood up and said, nope, I'm going to handle this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this anymore. Something has to change, and I'm the only one that can do it. She stood up for herself, is making progress every day.
Aggressive thing, to where she's like, I can't, it's a depression. I can't, I got to go see a doctor, this and that. But she got to the point finally where she's like, no, this is a mental block. Like, I know I have to do this. But even then she was struggling. And then we went through like a blowout. This week she's been like, I have a goal. I'm going to do this, this, and this. And she does it, right? And then it's like, she literally said, I feel so much better about myself. I'm like, it's what do they call it?
Mindset matters.
Mindset does matter.
Stop saying it and start doing it.
Exactly.
She stopped talking it and start walking it.
It's contagious.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Once you get the bug.
And infectious. That's what it is.
You want that virus. You want that to keep going.
Yep. And it's not going to always be that way. It's not always going to be, peaches and cream and unicorns and rainbows or whatever you want to say. We're going to have struggles in life, right? But our circle and those people that we have with us is what's going to help push us on. So, this is a good one. Reacting to what we can't control. Why do we let things we have no stake in, no dog in the fight, have such an impact on our life? Perfect example. Super Bowl. Politics. Well, that's one that's actually on here. Debates. Like, why do we let the things that we have zero control over bother us so much?
Honestly, I don't know. There are some things that bother me, but I have learned over the years, especially in the last probably 5 or 6, I've learned that I can't do anything about it until it comes to my door. When it comes to my door, then I will handle it that way. But until then, there's not much I can do about it. Mostly all I can do is try to work on my peace and taking care of protecting my family. That's
understand what your problems are versus somebody else's problems, right? You can work on fix your problems, but you can't fix somebody else's problems. Like the football games and stuff like that. That's a perfect one. A lot of people would talk trash to me because like I didn't watch sports for a long time and everything, but I enjoyed it. But I also know that like the team, if I'm rooting for, it's going to upset me. Like, why? Like, I don't even have a son that goes there. I'm not a coach there. I don't have a family member. Like, and it's bothering me. It's really getting under my skin that they missed that field goal or, why? So I just tend to not watch it to prevent myself, right? I make a conscious effort to like, but you've noticed if I watch a game and they're like, I'm cussing that they like that's going to do something, right? I'm letting something outside of my being that I have no control over have that much control over me.
Well, like, I love the dogs. But with all the changes going on right now in the NC and college football period, I kind of stepped back and went, I'm not really liking what's going on. There's just it's become more about money and less about athletics, and so I've kind of stepped back from that. And honestly, this year was probably one of the first years I have not been in front of a TV for every game.
Right. You mentioned that actually.
And I mean,
during
just like
the hunt and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the night they played one of the biggest games of the year for them, I was out here scaring the mess out of people. I was having a ball, but I still had my phone. I could look up ESPN and see what was going on.
I remember, was it the Christmas parade? Well, you were out there in Centerville.
Yeah, I was watching.
In the parking lot, you were like, "Dog one!"
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm. It's just one of those things. It's just human nature,
right?
I would think.
What do you think are some things that people can do to change that? Like letting something like that bother them so much, because it affects other people around us. Like it really does. Like someone that has so much drive towards a football game that's on TV that they have no dog in the fight. People will literally break a TV, throw a remote at it, throw their drink at it, spill a drink or whatever, break stuff because the team's not doing well.
Well, I mean, I've broken a laptop screen before. I was so frustrated. I had an ottoman down there, and I had my laptop sitting on the ottoman. I took my phone and just tossed it down, and it bounced off the ottoman and bounced right into the screen of my laptop and just busted. But honestly, when you think about it, though, small town America. We're in the South, we're in rural communities, and a lot of times those Friday night lights are what bring families together. Those Saturday football games, what brings family together, and that passion gets passed down generation to generation, father to son, mother to daughter, father to daughter, daughter to daughter.
Right.
I mean, and so it's kind of bred into us. So it's just not that easy to let it go when it comes to sport.
There's some kind of vested interest, that people have. Now,
well, it's passion too.
Right. Yeah.
That's your team. Like my Cowboys. Yeah, we've got 5 rings, but it took forever for that dynasty, and it's not coming back anytime soon.
Right.
They've got this massive, beautiful stadium and all this art and everything. It's beautiful, but we're not doing anything with it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So
it's passion.
You said it brings families together and everything like that, and but reactions can also take families apart. Put gaps between families because of the way they react. So sometimes it can take the enjoyment of watching the game together because dad's gonna get all angry and upset if they're not doing well, but then be crazy stupid happy if they do really well. And then just cause problems all around. Politics. Politics is another one. I won't say we have no control over it because we all have the voting right? We can go and vote and do all that stuff. And if you don't vote, then you
definitely don't have a dog in the fight.
Control you have,
right? Exactly. Right.
The little bit.
That's kind of where I've always disagreed, because I don't think I started voting until I was in my mid-30s. But for someone to say you don't have the right to complain because you didn't vote, I believe is wrong. Because I'm still living and I'm still paying taxes and I'm still having to suffer just like you are. And
think of how many millions of people have that mindset, though. If they would have gone and voted, could have made that difference, especially when it's a close race.
Well, that's what happened this last time. You had people that were so fed up till even the Amish, who normally do not get involved in politics, there were a lot of Amish communities that registered and voted
to make a difference.
Yeah,
because they had
and things got flipped around. But me in general, I don't care who's in office. I just have a antitrust of the government. I don't care who it is. I don't care who it is. They're going to do what is good for them. But
to an extent.
Yeah.
To make them look good.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
But politics, to me, I think someone said this to me, and it has just stuck. Politics makes smart people. Discussion of politics and discussion of the Bible can make smart people stupid.
Good. I mean, depending upon the route you want to take it.
Yeah, because you'll get people that are so dead set on something till, I mean, I've got views on this side and I've got views on that side. But
no matter what.
What's to say mine's right or wrong?
Right. And that's the point of a lot of these discussions, right? It's to hear each other out, honestly. That's the main reason for these conversations. Because just because you view one way or I view one way, I guarantee you, if we both did research, you could find something to back both sides up.
Oh,
yeah.
You know, it could be twisted and interpreted in so many different ways, depending upon how you want to see it. So,
well, you were talking about control, right? Why do we sweat the things that we have no control over? One of the biggest things is we cannot control another person's behavior.
Right.
What we can control is how we react to that behavior. You know, they're going off the walls, off the rails, and you're just letting it just eat you alive. Why? Let them.
Right.
Your kid's over there, throw himself on the floor, having a temper tantrum in the middle of Walmart. Just let everybody stare at him.
Right.
Eventually, he's going to stop.
Yep. Not getting.
Or he's going to hit his head hard enough on the floor, and he's going to knock himself out. You know, but I mean, it's just.
Well, we can control our reactions. Sometimes, yeah, we're controlling our reactions and we're reacting, causing the other person to act worse, right? So, not everything requires an action or a reaction,
right?
You know, but sometimes not reacting also causes problems,
right?
Right? Why aren't you talking to me? I mean, you just giving a cold shoulder causes.
Well, no response sometimes is the response.
Yeah, and some people don't like that.
Well,
You know, and that's where we have to understand, you know, how we all deal with things during a conversation or in a relationship or friendship, whatever.
Yeah, the other day, we had our granddaughter this weekend, and she's 15, so she's learning how to drive. So I don't live too far away from here, so I took her down to Veterans High School, to the parking lot, to teach her and let her drive the truck a little bit. And first time she's driven anything that big. But she gets nervous when people are around, or the vehicles are around. And of course, somebody else came down there, and you could tell he was teaching his child how to drive. So we went to the other side, and I just had her, instead of trying to do any maneuvers, I just had her start driving straight around this oval. Like how to slow down and maybe just let off. Just let off the accelerator when you don't have to hit the brakes, things like that. And she was talking about how nervous she gets when other vehicles are around. She's so afraid she's going to make somebody mad. I said, when you're behind that wheel, you watch out for everybody else. Don't worry about who you're going to make mad. As long as you're going the speed limit, then you're good. But I said, if somebody pulls up on you and flipping you off or something like that, I said the best way to make them mad is just turn your head, look at them, and go,
yeah.
And that will make them madder than anything, and they'll just take off.
You have control over that vehicle. Amanda can relate to this because I taught her how to drive. And just to what you said, we were pulling out off of Fagan Mill, turning left onto Moody, you know, where the old Food Lion used to be, my father's place, all that area. And she was taking that turn like just slow. And she's freaking out, like, oh, these other people. I'm like, don't worry, you're controlling this vehicle. If they're that mad, they can go around. Well, this lady pulled up next to us and was like, learn how to drive, bitch. I was like, she is, right? I said, don't let it bother you. And the lady just kept, learn how to drive. Just kept on, just if you keep yourself calm, you are in control of this vehicle. Mm-hmm. If you freak out and you react one way or another, you can cause a huge problem, right? And the same thing happened with when she was learning how to drive. We pulled into our neighborhood, our old neighborhood, and she was turning right into about hit someone's mailbox. It was a brick mailbox. And I'm like, brake. brake. You got to hit the brake. And she kept going. I was like, pull the emergency brake. Like, all right, so you have control of this vehicle. You can't freak out like that, So over time, she finally got to the point where she was comfortable and not worrying about so much. You have to worry about the people around you, obviously, when you're driving. But if you have a situational awareness, doing the speed limit, like you said, you have control of that vehicle, you'll be fine. So these are a couple of things the self-inventory is talking about. The importance of stopping to assess how our actions align with our values, right? We kind of done a little bit of this self-assessment, right? Who are we? This actually, I want to bring that point up with the movie. Can you talk about that?
Oh, yeah. So in anger management, David Busnick ends up getting sent to anger management, and that's Adam Sandler. And he's with Jack Nicholson's course, and Buddy is literally sitting down with the whole group, and David sits down, and the first thing he asks is, "So, David, who are you?" And David turns around and he's like, "Well, I'm a pretty easygoing guy at work and everything like that, and I work, and whoa, 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 whoa. You're describing your personality. Who are you?" "Well, everybody thinks I'm a pretty cool guy and all this stuff." And he's like, "Wait, now you're talking about how people perceive you. Who are you?" And he looks over at Lou and he's like, "What am I supposed to say?" "So you want Lou to explain who you are?" And he's like, "I don't know what you want me to say." This is why you're in anger management.
Right. Yep. Can't control those feelings.
No.
I think Tanya does really well with this. Her program is actually called Results Anger Management Program, right? RAM.
Yeah.
Right. And it's assessing ourselves, right? Putting all those feelings, I forget what the terminology is, but it's basically looking at all the things, right? And then picking the reality of it, right? We've talked about this many times, put all these feelings, all this stuff out on a table virtually, or even write it out if you have to, and pick out the real things, right?
Well, feelings aren't fact.
Right. And
based in fact.
Very true. And other people's feelings aren't fact.
Right.
I mean, they might play a little bit of role into the fact, you're feeling happy. Are you happy? Yeah, but why? What's going on, right? So I want to say that. I wanted you to talk about that because it's, how do our actions align with our actual values? That defines who we are, right? Our values. What are our values? Do we care about other people? Do we not care about other people? Are we an alcoholic? Are we a drunk? Like those things define who we are, right? What we do, our actions and everything speak to that. So one of the questions, or a few of the questions I want to ask. Oh, Mimi said, "I enjoy watching college football no matter what team is playing." She said, "I've learned to let most of those lashing out just bounce off and not take it personally, but sometimes it's hard to do." Very true. And we'll get right into that here in a second. But here's some questions we all should ask ourselves. Am I treating the people closest to me with the respect they deserve? Are my emotional reactions proportionate to the situation? Right. I could think of a couple times recently where my reaction to somebody else's reaction to something else was not proportionate to, because I lost my shit, and I lost it on Landon. He just happened to be in the crossfire of what's going on because of how he generally handles things. He was handling it how I don't like to handle it or see him handle it. And in that situation, he didn't deserve the backlash from me because it was against something else going on. Right. Does the punishment fit the crime? Essentially, I guess is how we can see it.
Oh, and that line gets blurred too, where am I meeting my son where he is, or am I trying to put him where I need him to be,
right,
or want him to be?
Right.
In the heat of the moment, a lot of times it doesn't work that way.
Right. Yeah. Why aren't you just getting it? Why aren't
right.
You you
gotta do it with Peanut all the time.
We got to be able to, and it is a self-assessment regularly. Like, am I being too hard? Right. Because I hear things like, here's friends talk, and they're like, "Man, I want to get away with that," and then I'm like, well, maybe I should be harder. You remember we were out there at the fire one time. I was like, "Landon, do you think I'm too hard on?" He's like, "No." "Should I be harder?" "Yeah." I'm like, Damn, your reactions don't tell me otherwise, you know. So, but it's hard to do a self-evaluation when, I guess you say type A personality, whatever, but when you hold people to a certain standard and they're not meeting your standard, right? It tends to make us treat them differently.
Right.
You know what I mean? The other people outside of the family and close like that, it's like you said, it's easier to treat them nicer because you don't have as much vested interest in what they got going on.
Exactly.
So, so what do you think are some of the tools to develop some of this self-awareness and emotional regulation? You know, we have actual tools, and then we have, soft tools, logical tools.
The only thing I can go on is experience.
Mm-hmm.
Experience is what has taught me a lot. You learn how to I guess you just learn how to cope and adapt in different situations around different people. Like with my granddaughter, I was talking about, I was helping her learn how to drive. For some reason, because of my past, I try not to be that way with her.
Right.
Because she's still young, she's still impressionable. So I'm trying to be for her what wasn't for me.
Right.
I don't really judge her. I try not to. Usually when I tell her something, she'll snap to. But I'm going to always try to be fair. And I fail at that all the time. There's times that it's like I just don't want to do this right now. I don't get it. I don't get teenagers, blah, 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 all that fun adult stuff. And then with my wife, sometimes, like we talked about, I can be unfair to her.
Mm-hmm.
Other times, it's like, what in the hell would I ever do without her?
Right.
I mean, because literally I have been with the same woman for half my life.
Right.
And I just never thought that I would, as being younger, I never thought I would see that.
Right.
But just experience, I guess,
right.
are the tools I would say.
That's a good one, actually. You said, Amanda and I were talking about this recently too, because she's 42, I'll be 42 in June. We have been together more than half our life now. We got married at 20.
I was 20. Me and Wanda met in October of. We actually met before this, but we went on our first date October 31st of 1999. There used to be a place out off the Cochran Short Route called Ghost Hill.
I was in high school.
I was 24. And I just turned 50.
You just turned 50, yeah.
That's
awesome.
Literally been with the same, and like I say, I never thought that. But like I say, experience has taught me, because growing up, my mother was the other one. So one thing I learned early on in life is, because I went, cheating is not worth it, because I went through and I personally saw how it affects the families of both parties.
Right.
And I lived it. And there were other things that I'm not really going to get into, but that taught me that it is never worth it to do that, to cheat. And then when you just get into the factor of nowadays, there's cameras everywhere. Everybody's got social media. You're going to get caught.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you are going to get caught, there's no way around it.
People are going to record versus, try to help in a situation.
Oh yeah.
In a
fight. I mean, she's sitting there beating you with a bat in the front yard, and and burning all your clothes.
I was literally just watching a video of this where this lady was going crazy, wrecking her car into someone else's car because she was pissed at the lady. And then she went to run the lady over, and people, got it on camera.
Well, how about that video from back in the 80s of that woman that repeatedly was just kind of going around this circle, or she was in a Mercedes or a BMW. Every now and then you see the car kind of jump because she was constantly running over her husband because she caught him cheating.
Well, that was the show we were watching? Beef?
Beef, yeah.
That's how it all started.
But, I mean, yeah, I just, like I say, just going back on experience. I mean, that was just one of those life experiences that taught me if you're going to be with somebody, you're going to be with them, nobody else.
Right.
And that is honestly probably the best lesson I've ever learned because it has put me with the perfect person for me.
Right.
And that is Mimi rides a Harley.
Mimi. You mentioned something about, you're with your granddaughter and everything, how you do this, you're not going to do certain things and all that. You hear a lot of people say, and I do this myself, I don't ever want to do the things that, my mom or my dad did to me, or didn't do, but you find yourself doing them or not doing them towards your own kids.
Well, in all fairness, when I first met Erin, she was 12. I wasn't that much older.
Right.
And that was a battle. That was a constant battle for a very long time. We put that past behind us. But at the time, I was still young. And there was a lot of times I was not fair to her. There was always... Is someone on? What? Okay.
Let me add him in real quick.
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Jonathan? All right, cool. Let me make sure it doesn't mess up the... Yeah, I'm fixing you. Sorry about that. Hey, that's way more important, brother.
Yeah, that was always worth it then.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna do here.
And it was the one from Super Nintendo too. I had to take her back.
Oh, sweet.
I gotta. Speaking of that, I got something to talk to you about later on. I kind of texted you about it last week, but it's some cool stuff. I'll tell you that. All right, this one here. Let me move this guy up. You're tiny.
I'm a little guy.
There you go. How do you look? There you go. Is that better?
Perfection. I need to get the green screen going though, dude.
Right? Oh, shoot. Man, my buddy Nick hooked me up with the brand new laptop because the other laptop I was using for this is also my my personal laptop that I use for everything. And it was just, I had to remap everything every time I was doing this, and it was just getting frustrating. So he hooked me up. He hooked a brother up and got me a brand new laptop that I'm using right now. There you go. All right, so we were just talking about, in this whole
Hey,
episode.
someone's next to the train or something, huh?
Choo-choo.
It's probably, what, 150 feet away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
200 feet, maybe?
You're lucky if it's 200.
Yeah, I could probably throw a baseball and hit it.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about, doing a self-assessment. Yes, it is 100% about that. So
about doing self-assessments, I know that that I've been going super hard on my mental health these last few months.
right.
And I actually have a workbook, self-assessed workbook that I work on every single week. Do a chapter a week to help me self-assess.
So it's a workbook? You're like filling out questions,
Yeah,
doing like self-assessment type thing?
Yep.
Where do you find
Yeah, so like this week I had to learn about this chapter, for instance, was learning about, and I was told it's not when Starbucks doesn't have your cup of coffee flavor, but learning about real triggers. And then this next week I'm learning about automatic negative thoughts.
Oh man, that would have been good for last year's topic, actually. So with
yesterday, last week's.
Yeah. Yep. So do you mind if we question him a couple things real quick? Because it sounds like he's deep in a journey with this, actually. So tell us a little bit about what you got going on with that. You know, the real triggers, right? What are you learning about that? Because we kind of just went through some of that. I think your input might help a little bit.
Yeah. So the thing that I've learned about with real triggers, you know, people, they've kind of ruined that term of a trigger, right? Everybody says, I'm triggered, and the color blue is my trigger. And, you know, they didn't have
kids these days.
The freaking honey mustard at McDonald's. That's my trigger. But really what a trigger is it's a past experience that is mixed with a current like a current situation that is similar to a past experience, and that combination causes an increase of emotion because you feel like you're going through that past trauma now,
right?
So you know, and then depending on what how those triggers affect you is your next step of where to go about helping yourself. But you know, I was able to figure out what a lot of my triggers were, and a lot of them had to do with what mine boiled down to is anything that when I'm in that mode can be perceived as me being not enough. Whether that be not enough of a father, not enough as a husband, not enough as a friend, not enough as a YouTube content creator, right? Like, and you know, I think at the end of the day, a lot of that stems from some stuff that I dealt with as a kid that I just never was taught to get over.
Right. So
when I say kid, I mean, some of it is when I was 19, 20, 21 years old, you know?
Right. Well, that was still a kid. You know, my son's 19 years old right now. So he does not have his shit together, but that's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of my reactions, and you know, you say that, it makes sense to me, you know, because I don't want my son to not be capable, right? So when he's not doing anything to help himself, it frustrates me, right? So I react, you know, and that causes problems. We were talking about in the beginning, you know, our reactions cause other reactions that cause other problems. It causes, you know, breaks in between yourselves and your family, and you know, we mentioned we tend to treat those closest to us more like shit than we do people outside, because like Jojo mentioned, you know, it's we hold them to a higher standard essentially, right? And when they're not quote unquote meeting our standard, it's frustrating, right? So then we lash out and we act out because we want better for them, you know, and when they're not doing better for themselves, this is me speaking because this is how I feel, you know, it makes me lash out and be more upset with them. You know what I mean?
Right. But the real thing is, why is that particular subject, why does that cause you that frustration? It's because you love your kid. You want to see him do right. And you also want to make sure that you don't see him do the same mistakes that you did.
Right. Well,
right.
You said something about, you know, triggers and things like that. Like, I'm sitting here thinking about it. I'm not saying my dad was never there, but my dad was never an encouraging person. You know, he was always putting down, and, you know, a lot of times in joking manners, but sometimes the jokes go too far, right? And where I am the exact opposite, I'm extremely supportive, like sometimes to a fault, where I'm not allowing my kids to grow and learn on their own sometimes, you know, and so it's trying to find that balance is very hard to do. You know what I mean? So this goes right into what we were just talking about before you joined, was what are some of the tools, you know, you're doing this little evaluation with this book. what are some tools that you're coming up with to develop self-awareness and emotional regulation in those situations?
Yeah. So with me, what it is that there's things that I have to like I have to recognize that I'm experiencing, right? So like I recognize when I'm getting worked up, I recognize the volume that my voice now I'm trying to recognize the volume of the voice that I'm using, the tone of voice I'm using, the words that I'm using. I mean, even things down to my posture and muscle tension, right? All these things that we tend to just go from the thought and we skip over why we're acting a certain way and go straight into the lash out.
Right.
Well, that why is really what we need to be dealing with, especially as grown men that are trying to be taught something that nobody was ever able to teach us in the past.
Right.
So for me, it's having to recognize all of that stuff that's happening in the time that it's happening, which is it's hard.
Right. It is. So, Jojo, what are some of the tools that you use? I mentioned it could be physical tools, things like that. I have some in mind, but I want to see what you come up with.
I just like what Jonathan's talking about with the workbook. I mean, with NA and AA and stuff like that, we had recovery workbooks that they literally would fill out in preparation to do each step
Right.
that they were going through. When they get to the self-assessment stage where they're making their moral inventory, that's where, and I do this on the daily. When I go out to my spot and I do my prayers and devotionals and stuff like that, that's where I'm like, Lord, this is what was yesterday, and that needs to go. I need to do better today than I did yesterday. And I mean, journaling, things like that. When, like Peanut and I, when we have our lash out sessions where I get on him or he gets on me, I'm just like, and I have to walk away. And that's when I'm going to sit and write these things out, because I'm going to say things and do things that's just completely out of my character, and I don't need to be that way.
We were talking about this, when we go back after the arguments and stuff, we're like, I didn't mean to say that. Well, you're damn right, I did mean to say that at the time.
Some of it. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But the tools that I think of are right here, right? Our heart and our mind, because those are who we really are, right? Because there's a bunch of stuff going on in there. And if we can learn to control those thoughts that are happening with our heart, because our heart really is who we should be, strive to be, right? I know it sounds cliche and everything, but you know how I already feel about cliches. They're there for a reason. It's to Jonathan's point, it's hard to not, especially we've been this way for so long, right? I mean, you're 42 now, 41?
41, yeah.
So we've been doing this our whole life, right? We've adapted to this. So now we have to reacclimate ourselves to do better.
Or unlearn. We have to be retrained. We got to strip a lot of that stuff out and then put new information in. And as we get older, it's harder for us to retain new information, especially when it's been obstinate, because we were taught to be that way our whole lives.
Right.
And that kind of goes back to the subject of today's episode, because for me, what I've noticed is a lot of the things that I would do to cope, I would use comedy. I would, make fun of myself. I would do all, a lot of the things I would do to cope 40 years later are perceived as my personality.
Right.
When no, those are just coping mechanisms that I had. And so now I'm almost, at 41 years old, having to relearn who I really am.
Right.
And it's been rough, because it's hard to think like, why to really strip away some of that confidence that I had in who I was, strip that away and go, at the end of the day, I'm this. And I kind of knew I was this, but it's very confusing at such a late time in my life. And hopefully things like this can help people out that are our age, that are older, but also younger, because I always say, like, dude, if I knew this stuff 20, 25 years ago,
Right.
who knows how I would be in my heart and my soul
Right.
and my spiritual journey and everything else.
Bitch, I ain't old. Don't tell me I'm old. Yeah, I mean,
You're vintage.
So, actually, I'm scrolling down to a couple little things here. Freedom of speech versus choosing the battles, right? Just because we can say something doesn't mean we should.
No,
right?
not all. No.
Kind of goes back to during an argument, you're saying this and you're angry at that person, you say it, but is it gonna cause other problems, right? I'll fully be 100% transparent. There's times that I say things intentionally to hurt because that's where I'm at in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
hurt people.
Yep, and you've done pissed me off enough to where I don't care how you feel right now because this is how you've made me feel, right? And that's
right, righteous indignation.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's that self-assessment, after the argument, right? And going back and doing all the apologies. Like when I go back, we're doing the apology time and all that. No, I meant to say those things because this is what was going on at the time, right? We have to understand each other. If we can understand why we said the things, maybe we each other won't do it again in the future. You know what I mean? So
have you ever found yourself that when you have those arguments and you just get to this point where you're just going to say whatever you can to hurt somebody's feelings just so they'll either know how you feel or they will just be quiet and go away? Have you ever found yourself that you do that so much till you don't even try to go and apologize because that self-realization is, why apologize? Because I just keep on doing it.
I could see that, but no, I don't think I can say that I've ever not gone back because I've always been decent at self-evaluating. Like I know I was wrong in the situation, and I've strongly believed that the best way to fix a problem is to approach it head on.
Well, see, there have been times that I've done that. I've lashed out. I've gone just as hard as I can to just make somebody mad and hurt feelings, just because I'm feeling hurt, so I'm going to hurt feelings. And then you start doing the self-evaluation, and while you're sitting there apologizing for what you said, or I shouldn't have said that, you can almost see it in the person's face that, well, why the hell do you keep doing it?
Right.
If you have to come apologize, why do you keep doing it? And sometimes that can be the hardest part, is, for me at least, is just like I'm sitting here listening to y'all, and I've done the work by going and talking to counselors, and I feel like I'm going around in circles, so I quit doing that.
Right.
Or for whatever reason. And it's making me realize, okay, I've never really picked up a book and just did it myself. Maybe I should try that.
Yeah, a lot of these things we talk about is a very conscious effort. It's stop talking about it, like we said last week. Stop talking about it and do it.
And that's why I was watching the cast, or I was watching on YouTube, and it's like, that's why all of a sudden I bugged you about, hey, because I got to thinking about it today. It's like, I actually enjoy this. It's it's therapeutic.
Mm-hmm. I could tell. I could sense it in your being, honestly.
But I mean, it's like I was saying. It's just one of those things. And I'm sure Wanda's just sitting there shaking her hair like, no comment yet. No comment yet. Yeah, but sometimes it almost makes you feel like you don't want to apologize because that person just, you're asking yourself the same question they want to ask you or have asked you. Why do you keep doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And when you can't come up with an answer.
It's because, kind of like what he said, we've been doing this for so long. This is how we handle things. It takes a conscious effort for us to reprogram ourselves to do otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's not something that you just go, oh, hey, today I'm going to,
Turn
you know
the
what?
switch.
I'm going to, yeah, it's not a light switch. It's more like a really large dimmer,
Right.
you know,
Oh.
it will slowly start to break down, but it's hard work.
And sometimes
And-
it's not just your actions, but an action. Like, for instance, we were talking about this. My wife, she had a big change this past couple weeks, right? It took her.
She's still a wife, right?
She's still my wife. Yes, she's still my wife.
Just want to make sure, you know, hey, it's 2025, man. I don't know.
Oh, she's still no, not that kind of change. No, but she, you know, she's been in this funk, you know, for quite some time, and she's, you know, I say making excuses because that's what it was. And she's like, she finally realized, no, this is a mental thing. This is a mental block. I have to get over this. And the past 2 weeks, it's like, I don't know. It's been, but she's done something about it. She's finally doing something about it. And I kept telling her, like, and she's probably tired of me asking this, well, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? And she's finally doing it. And she's like, I feel so much better about myself. And I said, you feeling better about yourself is going to make me feel better about you, which makes me feel better about myself. So naturally, it's going to be,
yeah, it's a cycle.
Yeah, it's going to benefit all around, you know? So.
Yeah. And I also feel it's like going back to what a lot of us have said, and I'm just learning this, right? Like literally within the last like 3 or 4 days, that there's a difference between a reason and an excuse, right? Those get confused so much, but there's a difference between a reason and an excuse. The reason I might have freaked out is because you were a jerk to me, right? That might be the reason, but it's not an excuse. I'm still responsible for my reaction.
Very point. Yeah, very good point.
Right? So it's knowing that and recognizing that kind of opened my eyes a little bit more to how I treat people, and also watching other people and you know, determining like, yo, is this person really, is this a person that gives a reason, or is this a person that gives an excuse? And
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Was that in your book?
No, that was something that I just started realizing as I was talking about, you know, I mean, we talk super blunt here, no pun intended on what I'm about to say, but I had I lost a really big account at work, and I have been stayed away from marijuana since September. And was it this week or last week? It was this week, right? That I smoked. Yeah, so I ended up partaking in some cannabis by myself, and as soon as I hit it, I felt gross, right? And my wife wasn't here. I was at the house alone, and I told my wife, like, hey, just so you know, I did this. And based off of the conversation her and I had is how I determined the difference between an excuse and a reason. There's a reason I smoked. I was stressed out and feeling bad, but it wasn't an excuse. I'm not saying like, hey, don't feel disappointed in what I did, you know, because if I said, oh, well, I lost it, that's why I smoked, and that makes me okay, that makes the situation okay, that's not appropriate. You know, it's like, hey, I'm poor and I'm hungry, so I'm going to rob a bank. Well, there's a reason you did it, but it's not an excuse. You're not going to be able to tell a judge and they're going to go, oh yeah, you're good to go. Right. So, it was just something that I was able to kind of learn, and it's really opened my eyes to how we as men go about our life, you know?
Not just men, I feel like women too, you know, they go have the same struggles.
Oh yeah. But I do feel like it's a bit easier for women to find, you know, that's one thing I love about this is that I do feel like it's a bit easier for women to find support. Men, we don't tend to be vulnerable around each other. And I don't understand why not, because as Tim said,
we were raised right.
Right. But as Tim said, this is therapeutic.
Yeah.
Right. Like we do need to be.
Yep. We got to be able to talk, you know. I will never get to the point where I allow myself, like, I feel less than ever again. You know, if someone's going to make fun of me because I'm talking about how I feel or how my emotions, fuck off. You don't need to be in my circle then. That's how I feel. You know,
Right.
if I can't go to JoJo, I can't go to Tim, I can't go to Tim to be like, man, I'm just struggling with this, and they just blow me off. All right, I see where you're at now. You know,
Right.
it's not right. You know, and that stigma is what needs to be broken.
Right.
You know, those are completely other topics. You know, we got plenty of those. You know, we talk about the mental health thing pretty much every episode because it matters. You know what I mean? We got so much to talk about in it. So we talked about discuss ways to mitigate these impacts by practicing mindfulness and choosing responses intentionally. You know, your response was to go smoke a blunt, right? You did it, and you self-evaluated. Yeah, you wish you didn't, but you can't take it back now, right? And you can't be too hard on yourself because of that. You know,
Right.
You did it, own it, and move on. You know, if we dwell on those things, you know, it'll do nothing but make us feel less than. You know what I mean? I always make stupid decisions. I'm always going to do it. You know, no, that's not true. So move on. Now, we can have that conversation another time. I'll just tell you that.
Well, you were talking about the mindfulness, and you know, we were talking about how we interact with our families, our people, versus the people on the outside. One of the best things out there today is the 4 agreements.
The 4 agreements?
The 4 agreements.
What's that?
Be impeccable with your word. That's number 1. If it's coming out of your mouth, the first thing, it's got to be honest.
Right.
The second thing is don't take anything personal. It's not personal. If someone's giving you a criticism about your hat, they don't have to like your hat. It's your hat. It's on your head. If they don't like it, they don't have to look at it.
Right.
But don't take it personal. Don't make assumptions. You know what happens when we assume? It makes an ass out of you and me.
Yep.
So, and then the last one is always do your best. If you follow those 4 agreements.
And sometimes our best is different on different days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're stressed at work, you lose a big account, you know, your best might be you're there at dinner, at the dinner table. And that's your best, you know, and you gotta, I think Tanya's the one that told me about this, her and Billy, you know, they'll sit there and they'll be like, what level are you at? I got 10%. Well, I got 110. I had a good day. I'm here. I can give you some, you know, like I can help you out. You know, let's make each other
Balance.
100%, or let me absorb the rest of that so you can deal with the 10% that you're able to. You know what I mean?
And then the other thing is an apology.
Apology.
An apology. I think women understand it better than us men because the way we were raised, for the most part. Like, what is the true definition of an apology? You can't just walk up to someone and say, I'm sorry. That's just 2 words, right? An apology, there's action involved in it. You recognize what you've done, you know, whatever tread you've, you know, placed on someone. That conscious effort moving forward is, I'm going to tell you now, I recognize that I've done this wrong to you, and I'm going to make a conscious effort moving forward that I'm not going to replicate that. I'm not going to do this again. And I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that that doesn't happen. I'm not saying that it's never going to happen.
Right.
If it does, catch me in it.
Hold me accountable.
You know, right.
Yep. Tanya just, oh, she reacted. Never mind. Yeah, that's a good one. You know, an apology is,
It's far more than 2 words.
you have to, I'm sorry before why I realized it did this to you, and I see how it made you feel. You know, this is why I did it, and maybe it goes back to the empathy and understanding where somebody is and why. You know, all these topics, see how they all tie together? Like it's pretty crazy.
But that goes back to Jonathan's point as well. Was there a reason behind it, or is there an excuse behind it?
Right. And
there should not be an excuse in your apology.
Yeah, there was no excuse for me to treat you the way I did, but the reason I did it was this, and these are the things I'm doing. To your point, I will make every effort to make sure I don't do that again. If I do, or sometimes just saying something can hurt somebody's feelings, you know, because when you're a jokester and you say something that offends them, you don't know it, they tell you or someone else says, hey, you hurt their feelings. Well, you go back and you're like, hey, if I say something that offends you, please tell me directly, because that doesn't help the situation, because, I'm a joker, right? I say some jokes, and sometimes off cue jokes that might offend some people, but that's my personality. It's no excuse when, to your point, Jonathan, it's no excuse to say those things when I know certain people don't like certain things.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I got to be able to be in control of myself at times. So I think you mentioned this in the past. You had some problems with, was it you that said it? I think you had problems with people who were gay or something like that in the past, but you've learned how to.
No, I mean, I have my views on certain things, but I don't think I've ever, when I think back, I don't think I've ever really had a problem with that. Now, when I first started working my current job, and I do work with the LGBT
I think that's what I'm talking
real
about.
close. When I had never really experienced being so close with someone that was like just different like that.
Right.
I mean, but then I learned real quick they're just regular people. I mean, you got the media that shows you they're people trying to force stuff down your throat and all this other kind of stuff. But honestly, the people I deal with every day, those folks just trying to live their lives. They're not trying to.
And that's the majority.
They're not trying. Yeah, exactly. They're not trying to push anything on you or anything like that. They're just people trying to live their lives. And I was in a church, and I was like, I do recall that I did this, because, like I say, I think I've done a lot of growing in the last 5 or 6 years, and working at this job that I work at has done that.
Mm-hmm.
Grown me mentally, because I would always go with what someone else said. I wasn't quite critically thinking for myself. And when I started critically thinking for myself, I'm looking around realizing, just like a lot of, this is the reason I don't really step in the doors of a church, is because I have tried different churches over the years. I was raised up Southern Baptist. When I first met my wife, she was Episcopal, which is kind of an offset of Catholic and I think something else. But there was a lot of kneeling and chanting and things, and I just didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started just visiting other churches and things. And one thing that has always really just stuck out to me is, if you're not doing it our way, you're doing it the wrong way. And I got tired of that.
Right.
I so got tired of that. And going back to like when I first started this job, I was in the church and I talked to the pastor. I said, I feel like I'm just supposed to love these people, and I'm not seeing anything wrong with these people, because my whole life I was told this, that, or the other, but I knew gay people, and whatnot. And I'm just like, they're just living their life,
right?
And I started opening up my brain and thinking for myself, and quit worrying about what was already an undertone of what I thought just rose to the top, because I actually started thinking for myself and quit listening to other people.
Right.
And I just started doing that for myself.
Well, that goes to one of the things that he was talking about. Don't assume, right? Because when you're not thinking for yourself, you probably are assuming along the way, hearing what other people are saying, and going along with that.
I mean, just like when I first met JoJo and
Peanut.
Peanut, it's like, I didn't even realize that y'all were partners.
Right.
But then,
Nobody did.
but okay, exactly. But then later on, I heard, or I think I heard something mentioned about it. I'm like, okay, well, some of the stuff I seen makes sense, and I didn't think no more of it. But then someone said, "Did you know they're partners?" I heard it. Okay, and
What's the problem?
exactly, and so I don't really have an opinion one way or the other.
Right.
But who's to say my opinion is right or wrong?
Right.
So
Live your life the way you live your life.
exactly, they're not.
And
I mean, anything that anybody else is like I said earlier, as long as it's not coming to my door, then
You don't have any control or any say what goes on in their life. They're not doing anything about why
No.
should it influence you or mind you or thoughts, your opinions? Because they're not.
and if anything else, the other thing to think about is that, and I don't really know JoJo other than the couple times that we've been on here. I've never met Peanut, but if it's two people that are treating each other right, hey man, I'm for it.
Yep.
Like what people choose to do in their bedroom, just you might see me standing next to my wife, but I guarantee that I'm not sharing the details of what happens in my bedroom. It doesn't change no matter who the partners are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Just because they're attracted to somebody of the same sex, or they feel like they're a different sex, or what have you, doesn't change anything about that. Like, these two care about each other, they love each other, and they're supporting each other. So that's the only time I would say to allow something to influence you is like, hey, I know that there's people that have been telling me that these type of folks ain't to be accepted, but if they care about each other and you could tell deep down inside that they got a good heart and they're good people, I'll tell you straight up, my relationship with God has nothing to do with the church. My
Right.
relationship with God has to do with me and God. And my God, my version of God says, hey, as long as you're a good person, and as long as you're always trying to help, you're not trying to harm, I don't care who you kiss or who you love or how you dress. But again, that's my personal opinion on it. I do think that we need to start looking a little bit more as like, hey, do these people care about each other? Then that's all that matters. And I'm not necessarily trying to, you know, uh, encourage my kids to be gay, but I'm also not encouraging my kids to be straight.
Right.
I don't encourage my kids to be religious. I don't encourage my kids to be atheists, because I know for me, just on the religious aspect of it, I grew up in a church. For years, I was an atheist. For years, I became agnostic. And now I'm back to the point where I, I have a relationship with God again. So if that's the ultimate power and I'm going back and forth on it, hey man, people can be into whatever they're into. Dude, there was a time where I was into chubby chicks. There was a time I was into redheads. It doesn't change anything. If somebody's into who they care about, it's who they care about, man.
Right. Yeah, and as long as they're
And Tim,
even if they're trying to influence my opinion, I would have a discussion with them. But if they're pushing, telling me I'm wrong and all that, I have control over myself. I don't have to allow that, but that doesn't mean I have to treat them like dirt because of how they feel. You know what I mean? So that boils down to who are we really, right? And that's.
And also,
I mean-
Tim, I'll say that for somebody who was raised to be taught that way, for you to work with those folks and go, hey man, they're just regular humans trying to pay their bills just like everybody else. That's a big step. And you probably should be patting yourself on the back, because a lot of people don't break that.
Yep.
Well, like I say, a lot of the folks that I are patients where I work at, they're just folks trying to live their lives, and that's it.
Yep.
They just want to be. A lot of them, they have barriers, they have struggles, and they have barriers and struggles that I could never contemplate at any other time,
Right.
except seeing what they go through.
Right.
Because there are some of them they're sleeping on the street tonight.
Right.
But and that has taught me, no matter what, because I still have my opinion and my feelings on things. I'm allowed to have that.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that I have to push that on anybody else because they're good people just trying to live their lives.
Right.
And
Live and let live, man.
they have gotten. Don't get me wrong, I do believe in self-responsibility. You're responsible for yourself in the end.
Yeah.
I've seen people, and I've had to walk away from people that have had addiction and were constantly bugging me for money and things like that. I can remember when I first met Wanda, there was a friend of mine that when she would call, I'd come running because she was constantly addicted. She was always asking for money. And finally, one day, Wanda said, I need you to stop. And out of respect for my wife, I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think things really ever got much better for that person.
But you can't save that person either. They got to be responsible for
No,
themselves. Like
I mean, I can't, just like I can't, a lot of people that we deal with, they'll come in so they can get their medications, and then they go on about, and then you try to schedule them a next appointment, and then you don't hear anything back from them. That's just part of it. I mean, that's just part of healthcare. But anyway, I just like you just said, live and let live. Because people are going to be how people are going to be, no matter what.
Right.
There's probably some people that love me, and then I know there's people that are going to come to my funeral just to see where I'm buried at, so they can come piss on my grave. And that's just a fact of it, because we all have skeletons in our closet, no matter how pearly white we think we really are, and how clean we really are. We all have skeletons in our closet that we do not talk about.
Yep.
And there's only 3 people that know beyond from when I first met my wife. There's only 3 people that truly know. And I am a thorough believer that everyone is like that. Everyone has skeletons in their closet that only their closest people will ever know.
All right, absolutely. That actually kind of goes into this next area. A few big questions, right? Who are you when you strip away all the external influences? Jojo?
You talking about the bare bones?
Who are you when you take away other people's perspective, who people think you are, who you think you are? Who are you really?
A cranky, crabby old fart is one phase of me. Then there's the jovial entertainer version of me, and then there's the calm, low key, just leave me the hell alone, let me listen to my tunes, let me just wander around in my own head, sketch, do whatever I'm gonna do.
Need my own time.
Those are my 3. That's my triad.
Right. Yeah, I know very specifically that I have a short fuse with certain things, and my reaction when I react, I've reacted, because I generally am a pretty smooth, mellow guy, but my triggers are my triggers, and I have been trying to learn how to control those triggers, or if not control them before they go off, catching them in the act and stopping myself and mid-flight apologizing at the point. There's no excuse to not be able to control these. However, it's a conscious effort, because it will never fix if you don't make a conscious effort to fix them. But that is me. I am a mellow, easygoing, short fuse person. I'll just leave it at that. So, people see me on the outside, a good, caring person. I am that. But deep down, I said this when we did our first haunt meetings and stuff, don't test my patience nor my tolerance, because that fuse will go off. Then you're going to think I'm really an asshole, but I'm not. There's certain things that will trigger me because the standards that I try to uphold.
And boundaries.
Right. Yeah, and boundaries, 100%. There's things that we will tolerate.
Non-negotiable.
And are tolerable, and some things just aren't allowed to be tolerated, So, how about you, Jonathan? Who are you when you strip away all those external influences?
I don't know if I have the answer to that right now based off of where I am in my life and what I'm going through. But I know that I care about people, and the part that I'm having to relearn, or I don't even know if I could say relearn, but the part that I have to learn is to care about myself. So I haven't really found out who I am in a positive way. And to say without those external influences, I feel like so much of my self-hatred and my depression and my anxiety have all come from external influences that started as external influences at one point, right?
Right.
And then like I said before, my coping mechanisms became my personality. So, you know, on my YouTube channel, for instance, there was a lot of times where I would just make fun of myself and be silly. And I'm always the person that wants everybody to, you know, be happy and laugh and ha 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 it up. But I'm also the kind of person where it's like loyalty is a big thing to me. And it's hard to understand that my loyalty isn't the same as other people's loyalty, right? If somebody, for instance, came over and slapped Tim in the face, I'm the kind of person where, okay, well, Tim's my friend. Now I got to clock this guy. And there's people that don't have that same kind of loyalty. It doesn't mean that they're loyal to
my circle, mother.
Right. But you know, it's some people, they might still be loyal to you, but their loyalty is like, it's a different type of loyalty. And so I'm having to learn that people that aren't exactly like me doesn't mean that they don't exactly like me, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's you know, I wish I had a better answer, but right now, to be honest, I don't know. I know that I like spending time with my family. I like spending time with my kids, my friends, and I like where I'm at right now. I know that much.
That's good. There is no perfect answer or right answer or wrong answer. I think that was actually a pretty damn good answer. What about you, Tim?
I would, on one hand, I'd say guarded. On the other hand, I would say a survivor. And you really just strip it away. Because I just stay guarded around people just about no matter how well I know them. There's only a couple of people that I don't really stay guarded around. And I think one of them is going through the toughest time of his life right now. So I am trying to keep distance just to give him his time and his space. And the other one is my wife. My wife is truly the only one. She has. Everybody has seen me cry because I wear my, even at work, I wear my feelings on, my emotions on my shoulders. But when it comes right down to it and the breakdown and just seeing me really, really broken, my wife is going to be the truest one.
Right.
And like he said, family, just family. I try to do stuff like I was talking with my granddaughter. I try to do stuff different than what was done with me. I'm not a big influence on her life, but when she is around, I try to be at least somewhat of a positive influence without beating her down.
Right.
Beating her down verbally or emotionally.
Right.
Physically is not even in the realm of possibility of me doing that with her.
Right. Because of past.
Because of the past, yeah. I will say verbally though, Wanda is probably the one that catches it the worst, and that is something I've always said I need to work on, and I don't really know that I'll ever be able to do that because there's times I think I've got it fixed, and then something happens and it's not fixed. So that's what I mean by the survivor. Just always trying to be aware of what's there.
Right.
I think it was maybe yesterday we got into a little spat back and forth, and it was more of one of those things of, well, you're like this. Well, you're the same way. I mean, and then just trying to throw comparisons, and then finally somebody just stops. Yeah, basically it's finger pointing of that kind of stuff. And then finally,
down and do a self-evaluation.
And then finally somebody just stops, so it'll end. And honestly, she's the good one at doing that. I can't lie, Mary, it's the same. For her to have stuck with me after this long and not put me to the curb, I can't call that woman anything but a saint.
She's awesome. So we talked about some of these behaviors and these actions. So what behaviors, good or bad, define you? You know, I mentioned, you know, I have anger and things like that. Like, but I know my triggers. Like, for somebody to not put forth effort towards something is a trigger for me. Like, to see someone not want to do good for themselves, but complain about stuff and not, like, it is a very triggering thing for me. Why it bothers me so much, I don't know. And then someone to just give up on something is very triggering for me. You know, I've given up on things, and that's sometimes where I get down on myself the most, you know, because it's like a hypocrite, you know. You get so mad at somebody else when you see them give up, then here you are giving up, you loser, you know. So, but some of these things can be a good, even if it's a good thing, or if it's a bad thing, it could still be good, right? Because it allows us to self-reflect. Like, you're not going to be perfect, you know. Sometimes you have to have the bad, you have to fail sometimes to succeed. So, I think a good thing out of me is I am a caring person, like, but to a fault sometimes, you know. That's why I said some of the good things can also be bad, you know, because I'll care about other people more than I'll care about myself or my own family at times, you know. That could be bad. You know, in the end, what defines me is I genuinely want to be a good person. Like, that is me, you know. But I also accept that I will make mistakes, and trying to make that conscious effort to never make those mistakes again is what I try to do. So, how about you, JoJo?
I would say very similar. I do everything I can to try to be better every day. Anger, I have my share. 9 times out of 10, it's directed at Peanut, you know, because he's the closest to me. You know, all my family is either in Tennessee or in New Jersey. So, but I genuinely want to be a good person. I want to be loving and caring.
Understanding.
Empathetic. And I want to work with people, help people.
Right.
You know, that's my goal.
Right.
Is to just bring as much joy as I can on the regular. Talk people through whatever they need to, and you know, let all the bullshit just fall off to the wayside, you know.
Yeah, don't focus on the shit you have no control over.
And it's, you know, back to one of the other parts of the conversation, you know, Peanut and I don't ever invite anybody into our bedroom or anything like that. Oh, it's Friday, it's shave your legs party. Everybody come on in here. No, it's, you know, that's, you know, to Jonathan and Tim's point, your point, you know, it's none of these things should affect anyone else's life. You know what I mean?
Right.
The invitation isn't there. And it's just like the billboard. Religion is, you know, like I say, religion is like having a penis. It's wonderful that you have one. It's great that you love yours, but you have no right to shove it down anyone's throat. And that was the coolest billboard I've ever read in my life.
We gotta find it.
Well, they asked.
What about you, Jonathan? Yeah, I mean, good behaviors, bad behaviors that may define you.
I think that I'm a generous person. On the good side, right? I try to help people as much as I can without getting credit for it. And because I feel like at the end of the day, it is the right thing to do without getting the credit, right?
You're doing it for the right reasons,
Mm-hmm.
not for the glory.
The hardest thing that I am, kind of what Tim said, is I can definitely be guarded. And I think all of that comes from somebody who, in the past, when I was vulnerable, was hurt. And so for me, my anxiety is constantly scanning every situation to try to not allow anybody access to my vulnerability. And, so it's something that I'm learning, that, not everybody is going to hurt you. And also, I'm at the age now where I feel like I can only allow people to hurt me if I allow myself to care about that person. And if I'm caring about a person that at the end of the day is going to legit hurt me. And I don't mean like, hey, we got into an argument and I mean like hurt me, like,
You hurt my
oh, this
feelings.
person's cheating. Yeah, but, if it's this person's cheating, this person's stealing, this person's this, backstabbing you or what have you, that's something that's completely different. I feel like I'm at the point in my life now where it's like, look, I put so many people through a ringer to determine if they're allowed in my circle before they're ever actually brought in, right? So, and another thing is I feel like at this point in my life, I'm a good judge of character, which I have to pat myself on the back for, because it's part of me feels like my trauma is the reason why I've been able to assess people. And yeah, I'm a confusing individual, brother. That's what I'll say.
You're still on a self journey, though.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that I don't know if I'm ever going to be off of the self journey. You know what I mean? Like, I'm okay with being 90 years old, still saying, hey, I could probably done better today.
We literally talk about this all. We are all a work in progress, and when we're not, we're probably in a bad spot,
or we're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
One thing I was going to say, though, that I am learning about is giving myself grace. And I think, I'm more inclined to give other people grace before I give myself grace. If I see someone else make a mistake, I'm more inclined to be like, hey, check it out, blah, 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 blah. Whereas if I make a mistake, like you said, Joe, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm such a dumbass. Why did I do this? I ruin everything, and I'm destined to have the universe just shit on me. And, at the end of the day, man, when you look at it, and we could be living somewhere that is riddled with disease, like certain other continents. We could be living in a place where there's war, like certain other countries, constantly happening. You really break that down, majority of our lives are really freaking good. We just have to be able to actually live in the moment and stop living in the past about shit.
Right. Yeah, the past will drain us. You mentioned about realizing, yeah, we're going to make mistakes and all that stuff. And this self-evaluation, it isn't necessarily just trying to find all the bad in us and like, are we a problem?
Right.
It's also seeing like, are we actually a good person? Deep down, we all seem like deep down we're actually good people. We have our struggles, right? But working through these struggles is what matters. If we keep just sitting there and dwelling on it and what is that doing for us? You know what I mean? We're making a conscious effort to do better, to be better, right? And I think you wanted to say something, Tim.
Well, he made the comment about always a work in progress, and I 100% agree with that. I mean, I was talking with someone the other day. It's like, and just kind of looking at how old I am now, but you look around, it's like, shoot, at my age, it seemed like our grandparents had it together and blah blah blah, and here we are. We act like it's kind of like my when you look at me, my look says I'm 50. My humor suggests I'm 12, but my body thinks I died in the Civil War. And it's just a matter of different situations call for whatever kind of person you're going to be.
Very true.
We all try to be good people. I try to be a good person, but at the same time, one thing that was always said to me that just sticks out: the road to hell was paved with good intentions.
Mm.
Yet that doesn't mean not to be a good person, but you have to do it in a way where,
guarded.
Yeah, you have to be guarded, and also going back to doing good things without getting credit.
Right.
I hate to see cameras.
Right.
You can do stuff and do it in the background. You don't always have to be in front of the camera. Sometimes the cameras are a good thing to kind of help motivate people, but
yeah, we talked about this with a nonprofit actually. Like we won't take pictures with, like when we're giving out toys, and we won't take pictures of them because that's not what it's about. We'll take pictures of the stuff in the groups for us, right? Because if donors and stuff ever came to and were like, this is what we did, we don't have to go out and boast, and all that, because there's a Bible verse about that. Love is this, love is not boastful, things like that. I'll admit, when something happened last year, another entity took credit for something that we did, and it hurt. But in the end, I was like, you know what? We're doing this for the right reason, so it doesn't matter. They can have all the glory and all that stuff, but deep down, we know, right? The self-evaluation, we know what we did and where that came from, right? That's what matters.
Yeah, see, there's times where I'll message Joe on stuff that I'm, trying to work on while he's working on things and stuff like that. And I'll feel bad. All right, I went to these places and I called these places and I sent these emails. It's not, and I always feel bad. I'm like, I'm not trying to like boast or anything like that I got these things done. It's just, this is the rundown.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then he immediately is like, you're the man. And it's like, I'm not doing it to be the man. I'm just doing it just to help.
Doing it for the right reasons.
It's like I said, I think I talked about it last week. I like to stay a little humble because, yeah, it does become a defense or whatever. But at the same time, you do like it gives you just that little boost, serotonin, whatever chemical they call it, whatever. It gives you that little boost when someone says a good thing about what you've done.
Right.
But at the same time, you don't want to get cocky about it.
Naturally.
Yeah, you don't want to get
right.
Reasons, it will come naturally and organically. You don't have to seek it. You don't have to, look at me, because it's cocky. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can happen naturally as well. Oh, what I did, that's where our circle comes in, right? Like, bro, that's not, stop, like, be more humble. Like, you don't, who cares? Iron sharpens iron, like we say.
I mean, it's great to be humble, and I try to use that all the time, but sitting here thinking, there used to be a time when there are certain things that I'm just good at, and I do know it, and someone would make the comment, good job, and I look at them and say, I know. Well, you're being cocky, aren't you? I said, I ain't cocky, I'm convinced.
Confident.
But it was just more of a joke.
Right.
But because I've always been a bit of a smart ass. I mean, even when I was a kid growing up, I was
better be a smart ass than a dumbass.
Yeah, I was. Well, it's like I said, Red Foreman he's my hero. Here's
dumbass spirit animal.
He's my spirit animal. Yeah. Red Foreman, the '70s show was just about a guy trying to live with a bunch of idiot teenagers. But I mean, I've been lost my point completely. But it's okay to fluctuate. You don't have to be this one solid person. Everybody is whatever suits them to be at the time, at the moment that they are in.
Well, I think it also helps build your character. You know, if you can adjust to different people. You know, I'm not going to be the same around grandmama, you know, as I am around, you know, my brother or you. Like, so we have to learn to know what's right in certain situations, what's wrong in certain situations, right? And sometimes you might do something at the wrong time, and you're going to learn from it, right? And you go, oh shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I won't do that again.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with that. We're always a work in progress, Jonathan, right? We're always a work in progress. And if we're not, you know, they say you learn something new every day for a reason, right? If you don't learn something, you're doing something wrong, you know, or something's wrong. We already talked many times about, you know, how can we take ownership over our actions? It takes a conscious effort, right? Physical things like Jonathan, he's reading a book, he's taking this journey, right? Having these type of conversations, having a good group of people, you know, to hold us accountable, hold ourselves accountable.
And don't just say it, do it.
Right. Yeah. That's the big thing we say now. Stop talking about it and do it. You know, take action. So,
and to Jonathan's point as well, where he said, let go of the past. You know, it's just like my favorite cliche or saying or whatever. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. Stay present.
Nope. Yeah, don't look on the past. I actually have one of my tattoos I got is me walking away from the past. Look, it's gone. It's behind me now. It's no longer here. You know, and then I got this one here, Amanda and I. It was since we got these tattoos on Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
That was the turning point for Amanda. We went and got matching tattoos on Valentine's Day, and she literally told me that she feels more connected to me now. Like, she literally told me that. I'm like, that's cool. You know, and we're going next Friday, we're getting another tattoo together. So, but hers says, hers is a ship helm, right? And it says, be the one to guide me, and mine's an anchor, but never hold me down, right? So they're not matching, but they're correlating tattoos in the same spot and everything. And, you know, we connected and we bonded at that, you know, and we've had a lot of good conversations and everything, right? So, before we go, I have a couple things here, but I want to give roundtable to Jonathan first. Do you have anything else you want to add on to before we close out the conversation?
No, I think just, you know, making sure that, you know, when I say like this is, so just to kind of give a bit of a history on where I am and how where I am in my path right now is that I literally go to a doctor every single day. Okay, every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I work in my book. And it's okay, you know, Joe, I know that you've said this plenty of times, but we have to remember it's okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, 100%.
Things will get better. That, you know, nothing in life is final except for death, and even then we don't know, right? So whatever hard situation anybody is going through, you'll get through it and things will get better. I mean, I'm absolute proof of that. And you know, from going 6 months ago to being rock bottom to where I am today is nothing less than a miracle. So
something to be proud of, though.
You know, I just want to make sure. And that's one thing that was, it was, I got emotional earlier this week. I was telling my wife that even when I take my, you know, I have a long-term goal and a short-term goal. And sometimes when we get caught in those moments, the short-term goal seems to be more important to us than that long-term. And then when you get out of that moment, you realize, oh my gosh, that was a sidestep. It kind of was deviating from what my actual path was. And, you know, I've been able to keep my long-term goals a little bit more in the forefront. And I got emotional recently because I was telling my wife, looking back at situations I might have been in the past, I don't think I would handle them necessarily the same way today. And that right there makes me go, okay, cool. Pat on the back. Work's not done. Right? Even though nobody is perfect, I'm okay with striving to get as close as possible.
Good job, brother. Proud of you. You should be proud of that.
Thank you. It's hard for me to be proud about it, but I recognize it.
If you can't be proud for yourself, you know, like you're gonna pull yourself down. You know what I mean? And you don't have to be proud of everything. You know, but when you're working through something like this, as tough as it is, and you can sit back and
you have to celebrate.
Yeah, self-actualization. I had a manager tell me this one time. Self-actualization. Look at the impact that you're having, not just on yourself, because you working on yourself, the impact it's having with you, your family, right? Your kids, your wife, your friends, you know, that impact, it's a positive thing. You know what I mean? So you should be proud of that. You know, this is your journey. Be proud of it. You know, you mentioned something about, you know, you're going to be good because you've gone through these things. I mentioned this is like the third time now. Whatever I go through, I get through. So when I'm not good, I'm good. You know, that is plastered on my wall above my monitor at work, or in my office in the other room there. But, you know, I look at it because we can struggle, but we stop focusing on the struggle and move forward, right? Because we're going to get through this. Might be difficult, you know, but if we can rely on the people around us and know that they're going to be there for us, we'll be all right. So that's it, Jonathan.
That's it for me right now, brother.
All right, Tim. Any final thoughts?
Just be who you. I don't really know. I'm not good at things like this, but the only thing I can think is just be who you are, no matter who that is.
Right.
Because there's, like we said earlier, we're going to always be up and down, up and down. Emotionally, we're going to be high one day and we're going to be low the very next, or we might be low the very same day. But just don't hold it in, because when you hold it in, that just makes it worse. Especially on the emotion.
Yes.
I don't know why I wear my emotions on my sleeves or on my shoulders, but I do. They're there for everybody to see. That's just how I am. That's how I've always been, and most likely that's how I'm going to always be.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
And that's what his.
You're just a sensitive soul.
I mean, I'm just as sensitive as they can be. What can I say? But I mean, just be who you're going to be.
Right.
I mean, I won't. As time goes by, it was a blessing that I've gotten involved with a haunt, because it's like Wanda said, it's like it's just really opened me up. And I've always thought, hey, podcast are cool. I'd love to get some equipment and do it myself. And I'm like, oh, who's going to watch me? But just being able to come here and talk like this is really therapeutic.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that we continue to do it. You know, if we can make the difference in one person's life, we know we've succeeded. So if we continue to do that, even if it's one person a week, one person a month, we're going to continue to do it, right? Because these conversations matter, right? However big it gets, I don't care. You know, 10 million viewers, the 80 viewers we have now, we'll continue to do it, because these conversations, we're conversing, right? Mm-hmm. These things take courage, right? That's why it's a cliche type of name, but it does take courage to talk about some of these topics, right? They're very uncomfortable, but in the end, they matter. That's why I wanted to do it. So,
I do want to say one other thing real quick, specifically to Tim. He was talking earlier about his granddaughter, and he said, you know, I try to be the best, the best role model I can be, and I'm not the biggest influence on her, but I'm trying to be a positive one. And Joe, I know that you experienced this with me in person when we met. Don't short sell yourself, Tim, because we don't realize the impact we have on people. Right? They might not be easy to voice it or show it to you, but you don't realize the impact that you have on people. And I got a very strong feeling if you're as open as you are here, as you are with your granddaughter, you're a huge influence on her.
It goes back to last week. Remember the invisible mentors and things like that? Like, you're probably that to many people that you don't see, or that they don't present to you, that they look up to you because of how you are and who you
Well,
are.
I mean, as far as a lot of people's concerned, I'm probably the bad influence because I support her the way she is, and what I don't see her as being strange. She calls herself a weirdo, and her people at school when she was in middle school, they called themselves the Weirdo Squad, and I'm like, well, when you think about it, I've always considered all my people hoodlums and dirtbags. Because and I mean, she's a big South Park fan, and I've got her into that, and just, she loves to listen to ICP. I used to listen to ICP back in the day, and so we can sit there and listen to that, and it's like, we bond that way, and I listen to her. When she talks, I listen. I don't try to fix it.
You're not telling her she's wrong for who she is.
No, I'm not. One of my biggest things to her is be who you are. Be
Right.
who you are. Don't give a damn what anybody else thinks. Because she's always getting, at school, I don't really think it so much, but you know how school can be, and some of the meanest people on the earth are
And girls have
other
it worse,
kids.
I think.
Yeah. But I just try to do that in a way where, because the way my life goes, I just feel like one day I'm not going to be here for her. And that's just how it is. Whether it's because whatever happens, whether I'm called home or whatever.
Mhm.
It's I always try to be that kind of an influence on her where I'm not putting her down, because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be berated and put down and just all sorts of things.
Right.
So I never wanted me to be doing
You're a
that
bigger
for her.
influence than you think you are on her, just because of that, because nobody wants to feel that. So give yourself more credit.
Yeah.
What about you, JoJo?
I mean, even having that bonding moment, like you said, about, bumping Insane Clown Posse together, and just, I guarantee that chances are her parents, or if she has siblings, you know, I was a big juggalo when I was a kid. I mean, I'm still surrounded by clowns constantly, and y- sometimes you just need one person to make you realize, hey, you know what? It's all right to be me.
Yep.
And
that,
I think that I think that you definitely are a bigger influence than you realize, brother.
just look at her. Look how happy she is. Every time she is freaking running, jolly, happy, go
Oh
lucky.
yeah,
So it's not like she's emo and depressed and like her life sucks. And no, she's the exact
well,
opposite.
she tried the emo thing one time, but I think she was too happy. For
Well, I
it.
think
So it
that,
didn't work out.
that's probably why. Yeah. She couldn't do it. Next week, I'm actually going to have the podcast is going to be on the music and reflection, and my son and his buddy are going to be on the podcast with me, because we're going to have that bonding moment, right? The debate over generational music, right? Whose is better and why, and But in the end, the ultimate goal is
There's no wrong
There
answer.
is no right answer. Us having these debates is our bonding moment, right? We get to talk through these things and talk trash to each other and understand each other. So sorry, I didn't mean to carry on. Jojo, you have any final thoughts?
When we're talking about, because I always say love is love, it doesn't matter, who it is, who it's with, and everything like that. I have definitely been struggling as of late with Peanut's transformations as he's been going through these phases. It's started out with the big long wig and the makeup and looking like a drag queen and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, where did the penis go? You know what I mean? And I was like, no, that's not what I married. No. So I, immediately go into that whole obstinate phase, and I'm like, no, this is not going to work. I can compromise when you've got to give me a little bit to grab onto to compromise with. When it's just a full on change like that extreme,
Don't bring the billboard on.
I can't, exactly. I can't, yeah, exactly. But it's progressed, and things are getting better because he's trying to meet me in the middle.
You're both are seeing each other where you are at the moment in time.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, and I even went out in public the other day to Hardee's with Amanda, and he had his his skirt and all that, his pretty pink hair, and I mean, I picked most of the shit out, and I did the hair color and everything like that, and he's just happy as a freaking lark. And I beat myself up, and I walk out there and I'm crying my eyes out. I'm like, Lord, why can't I just let this shit go and just let him be him? There's just that part of me that's like, look, you tried dating women. It didn't help your pencil. It didn't put lead in the pencil.
Right.
This is not helping. That's where the roadblocks are. So then it's like, we've got to find that happy medium, and we're trying, and we're both.
If you look at,
it's getting better.
It is getting better. I mean, you compromising and going out, picking a hair color, picking the clothes, and and that's supporting him, right? And you have to see that, like, his mentality, his personality, he's happier.
Yes.
I mean, not saying he wasn't happy before, but like, he's way more outgoing. He's way happier in his personality, and he's more outgoing, and from where he was, 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So
it's been a definitely a difficult road for me.
Well, I got you, brother.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind, but I kind of have a question about that, JoJo.
Yeah.
So, and if I'm asking too much, by all means, just tell me to shut up, brother.
Nah.
But in that situation, again, I understand that the transformation is kind of changing this person that you've fallen in love with, right? But there's a little bit of that feel good knowing that Peanut feels safe enough to show you who Amanda is.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Amanda's my wife.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So he's not transitioning.
No.
Right. He's not going that route. It's more of a femboy look
Now.
aesthetic.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Right. He's not trying to be a female. Right.
No.
It's more of a femboy look.
But in the beginning, he didn't understand it. The line didn't blur for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was like, I'm going all the way because everybody says I'm going to be beautiful and blah, 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 blah. And the next thing you know, he looks like one of RuPaul's like drag queens. And it's like, no, I can't.
Oh, he's so ready for us to do the drag too. We're doing it. We're doing the drag. I mean, I'm going all out, brother. I'm doing the catwalk. I'm doing it.
Okay.
I told him I'm doing it. We're doing it.
Okay.
I'm telling you, Joe already sent me a picture of him in his little cut-off shorts he's going to be wearing.
No, I saw the video.
It was Joey, my daughter. She did a TikTok. She's like, "Daddy, do this TikTok. Do this TikTok." Well, we were doing a ugly Christmas sweater contest at work, right? So we were out looking for them, and one of Amanda and her friend, we went to Walmart, and they're like, here, does this one do this? I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. They're like, you won't do it. I'm like, hold my beer. So it was a halter
I got no
top.
shame. Let's roll.
Yeah, a halter top, and then a little skirt that matched, a little sweater skirt, and now I wore long johns underneath. But man, I went out there and did this TikTok, and man, I was sassy all day with a big old long beard. But Peanut wants to do a drag show or a drag setup. I was like, I'll shave, I'll go all out. I'll do the makeup. I have no shame in my game at all. I know who I am.
But going back to that, man, it's got to feel good to know that Peanut feels safe around you, because that would be one thing. I don't have to go through the emotions that you're having to go through, JoJo, but I can imagine that it would be very conflicting of like, hey, this person I care about feels so close and open to me that they can talk to me about this stuff and show me how they want to be. But at the same time, this is not aesthetically.
Yeah, this isn't what I signed up for. Right.
Yep.
Right.
You literally said that. You said, I don't care what that does, this, that is not what I'm here for. You know what I mean? But
right.
That's what I was saying. You should be proud of what you've done. You that's a very hard thing. You've been struggling with it, but seeing you come around last week, you both came in, all the clothes and everything, all excited. You were very excited. Look at this. I got this, and so that supports him, and he knows, right? And he's actually making comments here. I do the emo thing, and I'm happy. I feel wholeheartedly happy with myself. That's good. You should. And in the beginning, it was a struggle. We talked about this. We were all encouraging it. But I saw what it was doing to y'all, right? And I told him, like, I'll support this, but I will no longer encourage it because it's causing problems, right? Y'all have to work this together. Like, just because everybody else says this and all that, you can't go against your husband. Like, you guys are a couple, so I'll support you because I want you to be happy. However, that's not going to make you happy if you're making your spouse unhappy. You know what I mean? So,
have you tried telling him how you feel?
Oh, we went round and round. Everybody had talked to him, knowing how it was affecting me.
Well,
because it was literally like cramming it down my throat, and then it seemed like everybody was like, "Oh my God, you look so cute, you look so great," and it's like, and like I was seething. I was going outside.
But initially it was, we saw how good it made him feel,
right?
But then we started stepping back and like seeing what it was doing to you, and then y'all, and that's why we all like we can't encourage this anymore. We'll support whatever, but we're here to support y'all,
right?
Not you, not him, y'all. You know what I mean? You have your own individual things you need support on, but y'all need to cohesively be together.
And y'all should be able. You should be able to discuss these things. Me and Wanda discuss things all the time. Like, I was letting my hair grow out. She says, and she likes me better with bald. So, and honestly, it was like, I need to get myself back because I started missing myself. So I went back to the keeping it close cut. But, the fact that he is comfortable enough in the relationship to do this, and he's going to be trying different things, then just kind of concentrate on that. And I guess in the end, everything will wind up working itself out.
Mm-hmm.
I get exactly where you're coming from about doesn't put lead in the pencil because you didn't want to be with a woman.
Right.
But just things will work themselves out.
And they are.
Yeah.
You see, there's peanuts coming.
And take someone that sees trends.
How is this different than a woman that chooses to change their looks? Is what Wanda's asking.
It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It kind of is.
I think that's
it's kind of changing the sex without changing the sex.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I know what the equipment is down there, but my brain isn't rationalizing
She said
that.
if she was heavy
an
or
attraction.
overweight when you married, then loses weight. You know, but then,
I mean, I was skinnier now, and she's still with my fat rear end, and she's lost a bunch of weight. I mean, the transformation she's made over the last 2 years is amazing,
right?
Compared to what, she wasn't super heavy, but she still stuck with me because I was a lot smaller, and I got pictures to prove it, and a lot less gray. But I mean,
I see it. I could see it as a different struggle because that's someone. Actually, I may have clicked to see what she's saying. They're trying, a woman or a man who is heavy set, trying to lose weight to do better for themselves, right? Kind of can be the same thing that Peanut's trying to do, even though he feels better about himself in that situation. He's not a different person. He's still the person you fell in love with.
But what no one else here on this podcast knows, I guess, is this was never.
Oh yeah, well, you've talked about
never talked about, addressed. It was never. He never acted on these things when he was a kid. You know, like go into his sister's room and put on her little dance recital outfit, or get into mom's makeup and get caught doing that. No.
Right.
Like none of these signs. Even his own sister was like, why the fuck are you wearing this shit?
Yeah, so he's kind of gone all in with it out of nowhere.
Right.
Yeah. But to LA's point, remember she was mentioning like maybe
now
with
he's
her previous family, maybe
right.
he feels a comfort to
right.
Jonathan's
and
point,
the safety.
Tim's point. Like he feels comfortable now, right? And he feels the love, he feels the support, you know, and he sees you like I guess coming around to it, you know, but that doesn't mean he should still shove it down your throat.
Right.
You know what I mean? Keep that billboard out of here.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean it's also, you know, Tim or Joe, I'm looking at it like imagine if our partner completely changed up their whole style overnight. Right?
Yeah.
Like let's say you got a God-fearing woman and the next thing you know she's gothic and she's got inverted crosses tattooed on her neck. Or, you know, let's say that she's country and then, you know, now she's all dressed up like some city slicker Sex in the City type chick. You know what I mean? Like
it's hard to say until I'm in the situation. I've learned that through life, you know.
But you saw it firsthand.
Those
Wanda, are you listening, getting some ideas?
Those examples I'm giving are like down here compared to the type of change that JoJo's having to sense. You know what I mean?
I'd say it's a struggle for JoJo. I mean, we talk about it, but I mean, I'm proud of the way he's handling it. You know, because I mean, it's
Joe. I get the way that you're trying to be supportive of Peanut, but I mean, it also at the same time when you think about the shoes that JoJo's in, it's got to be, you know, you love this person, you want to be supportive, but at the same time, you're like, this is, man, I'm feeling for you, brother.
This person's also supposed to love me and feel for me, you know. And
yeah, but also, but
you don't
ask a person, to not be what they feel is themselves, just for you. So I could understand how that whole thing is is extremely conflicting, man.
And I was the only one who was the wrong one. I'm like, because that's what it felt like. Everybody was like, oh, they're so supportive of him, and JoJo's an asshole. You know, because he doesn't support it at all. And it's like, no, that's what it felt like, though. You know?
Yeah, and I could probably say,
because he even said that. Yeah, he said that to me several times. He's like, you're the only one who's got a problem with it. You'll get over it. I'm like,
there were a couple days until we started realizing, like, how it was affecting y'all.
Yeah.
You know, and it was putting that gap, and that's why I told him, like, we'll support this, we'll support you, because, you know, but we're not going to encourage you to push it any further than what it is already, because it's already too much for y'all.
Yeah.
So.
But it's getting better.
Yeah.
We're finding happy medium.
Right.
That's good.
Get some positive.
And that's what it's about, right?
There's got to be peace and love in the valley.
Yeah.
There's got to be.
At the end of the day, that's what relationships are about, is about having that open conversation, not just even relationship between two partners, but Joe and I have a relationship. It's about communication. He's got to know I'm here for him. I got to know that he's here for me. Um, that's kind of what we're kind of here about, is to be able to be more open and also more accepting of
Right.
ourselves and
Mhm.
others.
Yep.
So,
100%.
that's kind of what we're all here for.
I'm glad you joined, brother. A lot of people, the last time you were here, a lot of people are like, that guy has a lot of good points.
Oh,
He
yeah.
speaks very well. Like, well, I'll try to get him on some more.
And then they were like, "But he's ugly. Can you turn the camera off?"
He's from California, that mother.
Hey. Once was a the artist formerly known as. Don't try to attach me to that spot now.
I'm from San Bernardino. I will never move back. Well, I've learned to never say never as well. So, well, awesome.
Except for that.
Yeah, there's a couple things that I want to say here. I want to kind of go back. A couple podcasts ago, we challenged everybody to do something, right? Look at something and challenge yourself to do better. One of them was, I said I was going to set my alarm clock and actually wake up. Take the Alexa out because it's easy to tell her to shut up. We were successful with that 2 times, right? Because the other things that we've been working on, right? Is it a reason or is it an excuse, right? I'm going to use this now, Jonathan. We're using the excuses, like just being 100% honest. So Amanda and I, we're going to challenge each other again to do this, right? Like I've always said, I want to wake myself up earlier on the weekends. That way I'm not wasting my whole day away. I don't lay in bed till 11 o'clock. Wake up at 8, but I'm in bed till 11 because I'm doing other things, So I challenge everybody to make sure that you're holding yourself accountable for those things, right? And then I'm going to go in today's call of action. Take a moment to reflect on your behaviors and your reactions. Are you letting external factors like the football games and things you have no control over dictate your moods or your actions? Share your thoughts about what we've talked about today. I'd love to continue the conversation. Like every week, we have things to talk about. We'll circle back once this first series of podcasts is done. We'll circle back and talk about some of those things. Self-awareness is one of the great tools for personal growth, right? We have to be able to understand who we are, what triggers us, why we do the things we do, and then are we apologetic or unapologetic for those times when we're in the wrong, right? It's not easy to face our contradictions, right? We talked earlier about being a hypocrite with some things. What are we doing consciously to change those things? It's necessary for creating meaningful relationships and a fulfilling life. Let's take the time to assess who we are and figure out those areas where we can improve on. Again, that conscious effort, like taking a tally on our behaviors, on our personalities, on our actions, things like that. And then the final kind of quote and reflection I'd like to share is sometimes the hardest look is the one in the mirror, right? Growth begins when we stop blaming others, own our actions, right? We talked about this a little bit earlier, and choosing to become a better person, right? So just like every podcast that we talk about, this conversation is not intended to substitute mental health support or anything like that. There's professionals out there. We have a disclaimer we'll play. If you need help, we're here to talk, but sometimes you need that professional help. Seek that, your close friends, family, whatever first. Hopefully that will help you. If not, get the professional help you need, because sometimes that's what it takes. And sometimes it may take medicine, right? It's hard to admit that. Some people are totally against medicine, but some of these things are chemical imbalances in our life, right? So talk to the doctors, talk to professionals. This is not a substitute for that help.
There are plenty of people who are alive today because of medication.
100%. I fully believe that. I think I'm one of them. And probably several people I know.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a song that goes along with this, just like every podcast. Ask everybody listen to it, take some time, and again, reach out, feedback. That's role playing. Wanda said that's role playing. I don't know what she's talking about. We can talk about that later. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jonathan, for joining. I want to talk to you after this, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm going to put the disclaimer and then the song. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you for joining us here on Courage to Converse. Our intention is to discuss tough topics, reflect on personal experiences, and explore paths for growth and understanding. I want to acknowledge that some of these conversations may have touched on sensitive or challenging issues. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or support. If you or someone you know is struggling, resources are available to help. In the U.S., you can call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text HOME to 741741 to reach the crisis text line. Remember, our goal here is to spark meaningful conversations while fostering respect, understanding, and personal growth. See you next time.
I see the rage behind your eyes, a storm you barely recognize. Words like fire, hands like stone. Why do we hurt the ones we've known? And shouting at ghosts, fighting the wind, blaming the world when the war's within. We wear our pride like armor strong, but is the battle where we belong? Who are you when the noise fades out? When there's no one left to shout? Are you the storm? Are you the sea? Or just a reflection lost like me? We pick our sides, draw our lines, let strangers' voices shape our minds. Politics, games, flags we wave. But what's the cost? Who did we save? Burning bridges just to prove we stand for something, win or lose. But in the silence, all alone, are we the people we have shown? Who are you when the noise fades out? When there's no one left to shout? Are you the storm? Are you the sea? Or just a reflection lost like me? Maybe the fight was never real, just shadows cast by what we feel. We hold so tight to right and wrong, but what if we've been blind so long? Who are you when the mask comes off? Are you the truth or just the thought? Are you the